this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to create an Airbnb listing that not only stands out, but ensures you get bookings fast, even in a competitive market. See, a lot of Airbnb hosts simply chuck up a listing with a few pictures and hope they get bookings, but then later down the line, they're wondering why they're not making the money they thought they would. So there is actually a formula what goes into creating a good listing, and in this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step process that I follow to create a winning listing and make sure I'm always making more money than my competition. So having a good listing is so important in this business because it's basically the storefront. Guests are the people that pay you, that's where your revenue comes from. So it's important that you're advertising your property well, so it's going to attract people to actually book you. If you don't have a good listing, you're going to have low occupancy and lower nightly rates. When you have a good listing, you get more clicks, higher conversion, and ultimately more revenue. So the first thing that goes into creating a good listing is your pictures. You need to invest in professional photography because the way your property looks is so important. Guests click on what they like. If your property doesn't look good, they'll simply scroll past it and go to the competition. So you need to have your property standing out, showcasing it in the best light, and the only way you can do that is by investing in good pictures. Again, your listing is a storefront for your business, so if you invest money into it, it will pay dividends down the line. So when it comes to your pictures, on the day of photography, you want to make sure your unit is perfect, staged really well to showcase your property in the best light. So for example, for your beds, make sure they're perfectly made with some nice throws, cushions, lay out your towels nicely on the bed, and really just show it off. Then ask the photographer to take some nice wide angle shots of the room, showing off the space. You don't want too many zoomed in close-up shots. Guests aren't necessarily interested in that. They want to see the space. They want to see what they have access to once they book the property. But if you've chosen a photographer with some Airbnb experience, I'm sure they'll know what they're doing and know what to look for. So then once you do get the pictures back, go through them and try and identify your best picture. This is what you're going to use as your cover photo. So the cover photo is the first one on your listing. This is what guests are going to see when they're scrolling through the search pages. So obviously the best one, it's only right that it's used. I generally recommend using either a bedroom shot or sometimes a living room photo with the smart TV. It could even be a kitchen shot. I just generally stay away from any sort of outside areas or the bathroom. And I'll put on screen now some examples of cover photos that I use for some of my listings that perform really, really well. So as you can see, for a lot of my properties, I use living room shots with the TV, and you'll also see the Netflix logo there as well. So that's the tip. Always add that onto the TV so guests know that it's actually a smart TV and it's one of the amenities that they'll have access to. So now your picture is sorted, you need to write a good title. So it's important that this is captivating, includes keywords, and really shows off the benefits of your property. I generally like to include 3 things, whether that be local landmarks, the location of the property, maybe one of the top amenities that it has, but just describing it in the best way. So for example, this could be something like free parking, having a hot tub, being in a city center, whatever it might be. For example, I've got a few properties in the Wembley area, close to the stadium. So that's something I incorporate into the title. A lot of people who do book the Wembley area, they're event goers who are going to some sort of event at the stadium. So when they see that in the title, it means obviously it's local nearby and it's going to be perfect for their stay. So just think again, from the guest perspective, what would they be thinking about if they were booking that area? Even if you don't feel like your location is that crazy, it's not next to a beach or next to something special, just specifying the town can sometimes do, or even think creatively, if it has a balcony, a garden area, driveway, free parking is probably one of the best things to do. A lot of people travel by car, and when they see free parking in the title, it's like, great, this is something that we're looking for, and it draws people in. If you can't think of anything and there really is nothing, you can also put the size of the property or the number of people you can sleep. But to give you a few examples of titles you may want to use, could be something like modern 2-bedroom apartment, free parking, city center pad with hot tub, 4-bedroom home with garden and city views. Just think sort of creative. Again, if you need to use AI to help you, you can use a bit of ChatGPT, but I'm sure you can come up with a good captivating title that kind of suits your property best. Now, on the topic of AI, we actually use AI to help us write the description, which is the next part of the listing. Back in the day, it used to take me ages to write them out manually, think of things to say, try not to go over the word limit, stuff like that. But nowadays you can use a bit of AI to help you pretty much design and create a really good listing. Although I don't actually recommend ChatGPT, one thing I'll plug you guys on is use Claude AI. I think it writes better descriptions for property. Sometimes it even includes a few emojis and stuff like that and makes it really pop. So just specify that it's for an Airbnb listing and it will know what to include. It knows how the algorithms work, what sort of keywords to include, and it'll write you a really good description. Once it's written it, just double check though that it hasn't included any sort of American words. You know, Americans use Z's instead of S's, things like that, or any like fluffy adjectives that sound a bit artificial. But overall, it should create something really good that you can simply just copy and paste, and that's your description sorted. Then the next thing is setting up your amenities. Amenities basically mean all the things that a guest has access to during their stay. Things like air conditioning, including hot water, hair dryers, ironing boards, things like that. The idea is the more that you have, the better. Airbnb have a long list. Also on booking.com, they have a list of amenities that you can select. So I would almost use this as like another checklist to just double check that you've got everything. Go through them, because there could have been something you've missed. For example, salt and pepper shakers, something small like that, or you could have forgotten that hair dryer, something very small. Go through, double check you've got anything, and there could be some things you hadn't thought about that could be worthwhile adding to your property. Even things like high chairs, for example, that appeals to a lot of families. Buying a simple high chair from a shop like Argos for less than 20, 30 pounds, and that's a new amenity, and now you become a lot more family friendly and are going to appeal to a lot more guests. And with a lot of amenities, there are actually specific filters that guests can look for. Something like free parking, that's a filter that guests can filter out all the properties that don't have free parking, and then reduces the competition. So the idea is that the more amenities that you have, then even when guests are filtering out and searching for specific requirements, you're still going to be shown and you're ahead of your competition. So really look through the whole list, see what you can invest into, because it's definitely worthwhile. Again, things like high chairs, even buying fans, dedicated workspaces for people doing work on their laptop and things like that. They're really cheap things that you can buy, and they're definitely worthwhile the investment. So the fourth component of making a good listing, and one of the most important, is your pricing. Because as much as the guests may like the look of your property, if the pricing's off, then they're not gonna book. So it's important that you're not trying to get too greedy, charging too high prices. It's gonna put people off and they're not gonna book. Equally, you don't wanna be too cheap. You don't wanna underprice yourself, because some people actually be put off again. They'll be thinking, why is this person so cheap? Is there something wrong with the property, or something hidden that I'm yet to find out? And even for the people that do book, you're going to be making less profit on those bookings. Yes, you need to find a sweet spot for your pricing, but it also needs to be dynamic as well, because there will be different days where demand is higher. For example, we set higher prices on the weekend. This is because more people are traveling and staying on weekends rather than on a Monday to Thursday. So these are days where we will charge a slightly higher price in comparison to midweek. Equally for the different seasons as well. So in the summer season where demand is slightly higher, these are days where we need to be pricing higher rather than in the winter months where bookings drop off slightly. Another thing you want to do is incorporate promotions. This encourages a lot more bookings. So an example, one promotion that I'll use is a non-refundable rate. So guests get a slightly cheaper price, but it means that their reservation can't be cancelled for free of charge. The second one is a weekly discount. So anyone that books a week at a time, they'll get a slight discount, and also a monthly rate as well. They'll get even more of a discount if they were to book a month. This way it encourages longer term stays. The idea is that you want people booking out your property for longer periods of time, because it's less turnover and it means you've got a higher occupancy. So utilizing promotions is a great way to attract these types of guests. And on top of that, you need to set a standard minimum night stay. I generally recommend at least 2 nights. This is because you want to stay away from one night bookings. This can invite unsavory guests, the type of people that could trash your property, be throwing parties, wanting a last minute place to stay. Having a minimum of 2 nights generally completely avoids these types of guests. In further out cases, so say bookings of at least a month or so in advance, I like to have a minimum of 3 nights just to encourage some longer bookings, because even if you have lots of 1 and 2 night bookings, you're going to need a lot of them to fill out your calendar for the month. Whereas if you had, say, a couple week booking, maybe a few other bookings that were 5-6 days at a time, you need a lot less of them to fill out your calendar. So right now it's a summer season and I want to prepare ahead for winter. So one thing I've started doing is increasing my minimum night stay to at least 7 days. So that way any booking I get for the winter are going to be slightly longer term. So that way when winter does come around, I've got some really nice long-term bookings that are going to see me through the winter months, and I haven't got to scramble around last minute trying to fill the empty days in the calendar spotted around. So those are the main components that go into creating a listing. There are some other things that really help your listing as well. And the first one is your response rate. So your response rate is basically how quickly you get back to people when they send you a message. On Airbnb particularly, they have an option for people who inquire and request to book your property. It's not actually a direct booking. So responding to these people in a timely manner really helps, because ultimately when you have a good response rate, the Airbnb algorithm recognizes you as a good host and it pushes your listings up higher. The next thing is reviews. This goes without saying, but guests obviously look at reviews before they book a property. Again, it's another filter. People can actually search for properties with a minimum star requirement on their reviews. So offering people a good service, getting good reviews really helps your listing and helps you get pushed up the algorithm in the search results. And then when you do consistently get good reviews, you'll now be able to benefit from some extra features from the OTA platforms. On booking.com, for example, you'll be able to enroll in something called the Genius Partner Program, which is basically like a loyalty scheme for a lot of booking.com members. Your property will be shown more and it offers people a slight discount to book your property. And then there's even a step up from from there, when your reviews get even better, you can become one of their preferred partners. And again, you benefit from a lot of increased visibility in the search results and helps you get more bookings. On Airbnb, they have something called Superhost. So when you have a minimum of 4.8 star reviews on your Airbnb account, you can become eligible for the Superhost. You get a nice badge next to your properties, and people now are aware that you're one of the better hosts on Airbnb, and they're more likely to book with you. So don't ever neglect the service that you give to your guests. It's not always about trying to get in new bookings. The way a business grows is by offering a great product or service to the customers. In our case, that's our guests. So we offer a great experience to them. They'll refer us to other people. They'll leave shining reviews, and our business will grow naturally, and we'll have to spend less time on the marketing because our product or service speaks for itself. So those are all of the things that go into creating a great listing. Now, you need to ensure that you don't simply just set this and forget it. It needs to be what's called optimized. So every couple of weeks, go back into your listing, change the title, change the order of a few images, add some new keywords into your description, because every time you make an update and a change to your listing, it gives it a new refresh and a slight push up the ranking in the search results. So when you're constantly optimizing your listing every week or so, you're making sure your listing is always going to be on the first page and being shown in the front of enough guests. So that's what goes into creating a great listing. And I promise you, if you implement all of these things, you'll have no issues trying to get bookings, and you'll be ahead of a lot of the competition. But if you are watching this and you need some help creating your listing, or need some help optimizing your current listing, feel free to send me a message on Instagram and I can offer some suggestions and some help. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.